Good afternoon. My name is Jason Carlasia. I know it's been a couple months. It's been, I think the last time I was here was December, January. Sorry for the long delay. I'm back here and we have a lot to talk about. Title of my show is Trump Gotti 2025. We had Trump Gotti 2024. Now it's Trump Gotti 2025. Awful lot to talk about. One thing I do want to talk about, I want to promote Angel Gotti show. Be on tomorrow night, which is Wednesday, May 14th. It'll be on around 9 o'clock. Your podcast, probably the best show on YouTube she has. And she's an excellent host, along with her host Marla. Probably, I would say, the best show on YouTube. Uh, I know I'm an amateur here, but I'm trying to build up my show. And um, besides her, I also think RJ has a very good show. Tends to with Mikey Scars. Um, that's one. That's another good show. James Proctor has one. Lee Cole. So there are many people that do have good shows. But I just want to promote Angel Gotti's show. I've been up on the panel. She's with Marla. So that's on tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. And a lot to talk about here. What's going on with the Democrats? The Democrat Party is disarray. In disarray. President Trump has done a phenomenal job. Remember they laughed at Trump back in 2016. He's not going to go anywhere. He doesn't have a chance. Well, look, he has done a phenomenal job. He's going to go down one of the greatest presidents in history, as far as I'm concerned. Probably greatest president of the 21st century. And who did the Democrats really have to run for 2028? Kamala Harris, bring her on. AOC, Crockett, Chris Murphy, my senator here from Connecticut. He is a joke. I said for years he's trying to run for president. He's also trying to run for VP spot, but he is just a joke. I know him from years. You know, he never worked in the private sector. Remember, he progressed up. When I worked for the Connecticut House Republicans, started out as a state rep, and then Southington area, then as state senator, then it became congressman, then U.S. senator. So this guy's just been in politics all his life. He's a lawyer, never practiced law, had some financial problems, needed a loan from Webster Bank. I mean, he's just a Washington insider, and he's really a lightweight. The Republicans have a strong Vance, J.D. Vance. You have Ron DeSantis. We have the Republican conservatives have a very strong branch. And Trump, thank God, he's changed our party. You know, he's got our parties away from these wars. Of course, he's to a strong national events, tax cuts. He's really trying to downsize government. Elon Musk and Ramaswamy. Thank God for those guys. Elon Musk downsizing government. I mean, the government's out of control. There's no reason why I've been saying this for years. With the income that the government has, even the assets, we could pay off that national debt. We're what, $36 trillion in debt? All the interest we pay. Imagine if we could pay down that national debt. Trump's talked about it. He's also talked about eliminating the income tax, which I think could be done. The last time this country was debt free was 1834 under Andrew Jackson. That's the last time the United States was debt free, and I believe it could go again. Last time we had the budget surplus, Newt Gingrich was in Congress. We left 98, but 99 in his era. What was it? John Kasich there was in Washington at the time, and he was headed I believe it was the Ways and Means Committee. I might be stand corrected on that, but it was the Ways and Means Committee. He was a hawk, deficit hawk. Government had surplus. Now they like to credit Bill Clinton for this, but the reason why we had a budget surplus is because of a Republican Congress. The president can't spend a dime without Congress, meaning the House. All spending bills start in the House. So, you know, Clinton really didn't deserve credit. Plus, you're counting the money, the Social Security money, too, coming in, too, which would be in a lockbox, another story. But when the country, back in 1999, over 25 years ago, we had those budget surpluses, which I always say means you're overtaxed, it was because of a Republican Congress that cut taxes, not because of Bill Clinton. And it goes back to Reagan's tax cuts in the 80s, were carried over to the 90s, which I believe carried over into the 2000s, to the Bush administration, really carried over Reagan's tax cuts, made our economy good up to the Great Recession. And the only reason why it turned around in the Great Recession, again, we had a Republican Congress in there, And then Trump's first term as president put our country back in the right direction. Fortunately, Biden was a joke. His administration with Kamala Harris, Laughing Harris, all that did was set our country back. But thankfully, we have Trump in there. We have a Republican House, Congress, Supreme Court. Most of the governorships are Republican, and I've turned this country around. You give Tom Homan, hats off to him, going after the illegals. That's a main problem. The illegals in this country, inflation, runaway spending in Washington, and Trump. It's a very short window that he has, but I believe he's going to get a lot done in 100 days. He's done more in 100 days that Biden did in 4 years. His presidency is a disaster, worst president in history, probably even worse than Jimmy Carter, and just a very far left presidency. And the Democrat Party is in disarray. They have problems. I notice here you have the mayor of Newark there, New Jersey, if I pronounce his name, Kika or something like that, getting arrested. So instead of doing something good, you got to do something negative to get publicity. Why don't you do something good? And these are criminals. These are hardcore. Not just illegal aliens. I mean, if you're here illegally, you're breaking the law. Number one, that's a felony. But number two, you're dealing with murderers, rapists, child rapists, killers, and these people are defending them. They're defending criminals that don't belong in this country. Listen, my ancestors came here the right way. Everybody else in this country, the people here legally, they came here the right way. These people do not belong here. They should be deported. And this just shows how far left the Democrats are. They're siding with illegals over U.S. citizens. How sad is that? Talk to Lincoln Riley, her parents, her family, that she was murdered. Talk about all the other women, all the other people that have been murdered by illegals. Why don't they talk about that? The loony left is I don't know. I think they belong in a psych ward. There is something wrong with the loony left. They make no sense in the things they want to do. And I mean, who do they really have as their leader? They have Bernie Sanders that's out there, who's a far left socialist, a leftover from the 60s. What did I say? AOC, Crockett. I mean, it's the same old, same old. And it's the same old, same old. They keep using this term Nazi, Nazi, Nazi. Well, a Nazi's a socialist. They're the ones that are Nazis. They're the ones that are socialists. They're the ones that are anti-Israel. They're anti-Jewish. They're anti-Israel. And thank God we also have a president that supports Israel, that wants peace in the Middle East, that is ending the war in Ukraine, holding other countries accountable. With I always believe free but fair trade. And finally, these countries there, they won't. It's okay for us to sell our products there, but they don't allow. In other words, they're making it very difficult. Free trade's one way with China. They've cheated on the WTO, things of that sort. Same thing with the European nations, too. And I'm finally glad you have a president in there that's America first. In other words, we could, it's okay for China to sell their goods in our country, but we can't sell our goods to the Chinese. They make it difficult to sell our goods over there. And these tariffs are working because China's having a problem. People are getting laid off. So these tariffs are working. And you see these countries coming to the table. China, the UK. Finally, it's America first. In a way, we're subsidizing these countries with drug prices. I've said this over 20 years ago. The problem with drug prices is all these other countries have price controls. The U.S. doesn't have price controls. So the pharmaceutical companies, what they can't make in the other countries, they're making in our countries. Now, believe me, I'm not anti-pharmaceutical. We need the pharmaceutical countries. We need companies. We need their medications, no doubt about it. And I am, as you know me for years, I am opposed to socialized medicine, no doubt about it. However, we shouldn't be subsidizing these other countries. We shouldn't be, the Europeans, the Canadians, part of that has to deal with NAFTA. They put all these price controls, but we're paying for it here. We're paying so much more because we're subsidizing these other countries. So finally, you have a president that's willing to do something about that. President that's also looking at deregulation, tax cuts. I mean, you've seen, Republicans in the past cut taxes, but they didn't cut the size of government, which is something that Trump's willing to do. And our national debt. you got to look at it this way. How much of the interest that we're paying on that? Look at that and the principal. Imagine if we could pay off the national debt, what we could do. For that matter, we probably could eliminate the income tax. One time I heard that the country we were at 1990 spending levels, we wouldn't need the income tax. I always considered a consumption tax, like a national sales tax, because then it gets the underground economy, and then that's a lot more fair, because you're not punishing people for your success. You know, if you the only way you're going to pay taxes is what you spend, and I believe that it will get the underground economy. The people that are not paying income tax, they're going to have to pay it too. But another big thing is they have to cut spending, not just a cut in the increase. See, here's what you're hearing in Connecticut. Oh, they're cutting Medicaid, they're cutting Medicare. You're hearing these liberal blue state governors saying that, blue state legislators. No, it's a cut in the increase. That's what it is. See, Washington, when you hear cuts, it's only a cut in the increase. Instead of spending increasing by 20%, increases by 10%. And by the way, I like this idea too of Medicare, um, privatizing Medicare. That's a good thing. One thing George W. Bush did in continuing that, having Medicare Advantage. I know a good idea that Mayor Eric Adams in New York City, retired city employees, wants to put them on uh, Medicare Advantage, which I think is a good idea, and that's a win-win for both sides. Um, and Here's what you got to understand in Washington with these politicians. Oh, he's hurting the poor. No, he's not. He's actually helping the poor. He's helping the middle class. I mean, I say for the last 15 years, well, with the exception of the Trump years, but I would say going back since '09, the first Obama term, the middle class has been screwed over. And now with these tariffs, you're going to see more jobs created here, more investment in our country. And I know these labor unions, they constantly support Democrats, but it's about time they start supporting Republicans. It's not so much the union members, it's these union bosses too. They're the ones that constantly support these Democrats. It's not the rank and file union, especially the private sector. They support Republicans. A lot of the blue collar union people, Teamsters, truck drivers, construction workers, factory workers, they're supporting Republicans. But I think the union bosses need to get on board and start doing that. And I hear a little bit of Sean O'Brien. Seems like he's been sitting down with Trump. But we have to get to the point of we have to start seeing we need to bring jobs back to the U.S. I mean, there's cities and states that have been devastated. I mean, look at the Rust Belt. Rust Belt's anywhere from really Connecticut all the way out to Wisconsin that way, um, Iowa out that way. The Rust Belt has been devastated. So we're bringing back those jobs. Now, true, a lot of these jobs have become automated in factories. So you're probably not going to see, what it used to be in terms of the amount of jobs, but you will see a lot of them because you still need people to work in these places. Plus the other jobs that are created too. If one of these factories, you name them, General Motors, say, comes back here, opens up plants, um, you're going to have plenty of workers there. But how about companies that are contracted with GM too? It helps them. How about the car dealerships? I could go on mechanics, salespeople, auto body people, you name it. Jobs are going to be created from that. So it's not just directly jobs. How about the indirect jobs too? And you'll see less people dependent on the government, public assistance, and things of that sort. I know it's Trump too, which would push more the idea about privatization of Social Security, which I think should be done. Um, because you know why a lot of people don't like Trump. They're scared of him. The bureaucrats in Washington D.C. They had it too good for too long. Now Trump's catching up to them. Well, it should, like people having to go back to work. Why should so many government employees be working at home? Who knows what they're doing? They're not doing their job. Finally, common sense is being brought back to Washington. And finally, the establishment, the elitists, are being taken on by the Trump administration. And Trump has the A team around him. He has better people this time than he had the first administration. And I believe 2020, which I still believe to this day Trump won, the loss in 2020 was a blessing in disguise because this showed how far left the Democrats have become with Biden. Also, it made Trump move even further to the right. It made Trump really cut the size of government. So 2020, in the long run, backfired on the Democrats. It was a blessing in disguise for this country, what happened in 2020. And I think it's going to hurt the Democrats for years come because Republicans are going to say, hey, you want to go back to the Biden Harris years? Think of that. You want to go back to the Biden Harris years? Think about that. Here's an interesting, too, 50% of Hispanics, 45-50% of Hispanics voted for Trump. 20% of African Americans voted for Trump. And believe me, the far left Democrats, they're not happy about it. And the few conservatives left in the Democratic Party or moderates, they have a serious problem in hands because it's the progressives who've taken over the Democratic Party. AOC, Jasmine Crockett, they're a joke. They have nobody. You got Pritzker, J.P. Pritzker, um, that's the governor of Illinois, who that state's got a ton of problems, talking about running for president. Well, look what he's done to Illinois and Chicago. Look all the problems they have there. Phil Murphy, the governor of New Jersey, is in big trouble. He almost lost last time to an unknown. I believe he's going to get beat. Republicans have a good chance of getting the governorship in New Jersey, along with I believe, the House and the Senate in New Jersey, too. And Trump almost won New Jersey last time. I believe the Republicans have an excellent chance of getting the governorship and the House and Senate in New Jersey, because New Jersey does have some Republican congressmen there. And I start seeing the red is spreading from, remember, Ohio is a swing state, red state. Florida, swing state, red state. Pennsylvania, swing state, that's becoming a red state. New Jersey's becoming a red state. Obviously, New York and Connecticut. Look how well Trump did won. He won in Long Island, bigger than last time. He's won Nassau, Suffolk County. He's won Staten Island. He's won parts of New York, parts of Queens like Howard Beach, parts of Brooklyn, Bensonhurst. What's that telling you? Even parts of the Bronx, certain parts of Manhattan. Trump's won. So, and then he's won upstate New York too. If you took away the city, if you took away, let me get this right, Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx, and Manhattan, Trump wins New York State. And because he won Staten Island, he, like I said, he even won parts of those four boroughs that I mentioned, including Howard Beach, Ozone Park. He's won Nassau, Suffolk County. He's won upstate New York. So what's that telling you? So what the Republicans have to do is do a little bit better in places like Manhattan, Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens. Republicans now, they're starting to get the Hispanics, the African Americans on their side. You're seeing a major shift that hasn't happened since 1932. So as long as they could build up that base, they have an excellent chance of winning New York State in the future, of Republicans winning New York State, Republican presidential candidates, getting more Republican congressmen, maybe winning a Senate seat, but also biggie is getting a governorship, getting rid of Kathy Hochul, who's been a big joke in New York with this congestion pricing that Trump wants to get rid of, should be going soon. That is a joke. And we got to get rid of Kathy Hochul. That's important there in New York. New Yorkers that are listening to me, I'm over in Connecticut, I'm next over, but New Yorkers that are listening to this, need to vote for the Republican. Zellman almost won last time. He came close, but they got to work harder, get people out to vote. You got to have a big run up in upstate New York, Nassau, Suffolk County. You have to have a respectable showing in Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan. Win Staten Island by a large amount. Win even certain neighborhoods like Howard Beach, and they could win the governorship. We could get, Republicans could regain that seat first time in over 20 years. That the Republicans do have a shot of winning the governorship. It'll be the first time over 20 years, and the Republicans do control the state Senate there, and make some seats there, maybe make some seats in the House. So that's important. Connecticut, I know they keep selecting the Republicans, these multi-millionaire candidates. Maybe you need another Trump here. You need a Trump. But then the Republicans got to concentrate on gaining seats in the state House, getting the state Senate. I believe you got to get the governorship, the state Senate, and work on at least making gains in the state House. If not, someday take the state House back. And we got to get a Republican congressman. But Trump, got over 45% of the vote in Connecticut, which is excellent. He did well in the Naugatuck Valley, Wolcott, Prospect. Prospect was the biggest in the state that Trump won. He did well in the eastern part of the state. Windham County did well in Litchfield County. So you got to have a good run up in the suburbs. But I believe even in the cities with more blacks and Hispanics trending Republican, they had a good shot of having a respectable showing in places like Hartford, New Haven, Bridgeport, Waterbury. Have to have a respectable showing this place, have a strong run up in the suburbs, and the Republicans could get the governorship, they could get the state senate, possibly the state house, get a congressman in there. Need to turn things around. And selling out to the Democrats is not the answer. They've taken on this populist movement, which is good. America first. That finally we have that. And Tom Homan's done a great job. Great pick by President Trump. People in his administration. He's got the A team. And there's no doubt about it. Um, One thing I was listening to one gentleman talk more about Angel Gotti with this, about the way John Gotti was treated in Marion. You don't hear much about this, about when they were giving him cancer treatment, he got third-degree burns to his face. He was tortured. It was terrible. They treated John Gotti terribly. And he got railroaded. He got screwed over by Sammy the Rat, Sammy the Bull, which is a whole other story. But, where were all these liberals then about John Gotti, the way he was treated? And you got these illegals who are not citizens of this country, and they're sticking up for him. Murderers, rapists, people that hurt innocent people. John Gotti never hurt innocent people. He was in that life. But these are people that hurt innocent people. These illegals hurt innocent people. And look the way they're treated. And look how the far left's sticking up for them. Where was somebody, talking about the way John Gotti was being treated? And that's, a whole other story to get into it. But he, as far as I'm concerned, was wrongfully convicted, breaking into an old lady's apartment to tap it, wiretap, which I don't think there's a lot of issues there. I'm always against the RICO laws because RICO law, it doesn't hold the people who actually commit the crime accountable. It's just if you're part of this organization, and even if you didn't commit a crime, they could still charge you. You could be charged with something that you didn't commit. If somebody else robbed the bank, but yet you're part of that organization, you could be charged with that crime. That's unconstitutional. I think, listen, RICO, it's got to be struck down by the Supreme Court someday. I don't know if you can see Congress overturn it, possibly, but I think you need the Supreme Court to overturn the RICO law. That's what's going to happen someday. And look, they were trying to use it against Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, and look what they did to Trump, this lawfare. Finally, it's stopping with Trump. But what about Letitia James, the Attorney General in New York? I'm glad I'm fighting. This is getting her back for what she did to Donald Trump, his family, people around them. That's dead wrong. What she did to Trump, going after him, she ran on this Get Trump thing, and we got an Attorney General in Connecticut that's doing it. That's wrong. You're not elected to go after the president. You're elected to enforce the laws of your state. That Get Trump thing, it's lawfare. It's very scary because it could happen to you and I. Could happen to you and I. And that is very scary. I know Jackie Rena was talking about the situation with her grandfather, trying to get him out, and what he's gone through. And, I'll talk about that another time. But something else interesting, too. I feel very sorry for her family. Like I feel sorry for Angel Gotti and her family, all things they've been through, too. But look at Donald Trump, what they did to his family. What they could do to Trump, that means these far left loony liberals could do to us. Letitia James could do that to us if they don't like us. That's very scary. But now she's being in trouble for mortgage fraud. So what goes around comes around, Letitia. You went after a guy just because you don't like his political views. That's dead wrong. Well, mortgage fraud. I think she should be wearing an orange jumpsuit. I think she needs to, see what size, orange jumpsuit she should, be wearing. And I like to see her do at least 3 to 4 years in jail. It's mortgage fraud. Anybody else would get jail time. So you listen, there's people who've done less than mortgage fraud and they've gotten jail time. She deserves at least 3 to 4 years in jail. And that's a terrible thing what she did to go after him and his family. And even the think of his name too, the DA in Manhattan for New York State. I'm trying to think of his name. It'll come back to me too. Alvin Bragg. He's a joke. They should really do an investigation on him. We're going after Trump. But I don't like the FBI being politicized. At least now the Cash Patel, he's in there now. We'll make the FBI less political. And what happened with Letitia James is instead of investigating somebody for a crime, it's get the person and see if they did a crime. Get Donald Trump, see if he did a crime. That's what they're doing. Instead of going looking for the crime and then prosecuting the person, no, they look for the person and then prosecute you uh, for a crime on trumped up charges. What she did is dead wrong, but what goes around comes around, Letitia. See, you want to go after Donald Trump, look at you, mortgage fraud. Very serious crime. But, I'm starting to see that now where, hey, and to me, that's not lawfare. She committed a crime. And I like to know how many other Democrats, what else in the Biden administration, um, Joe Biden's son, all the things he did, um, a lot of shady stuff went in the Biden administration. China had something over Biden because he sold us out to China. He sold us out to Mexico. You notice too, by the way, the border sealed up. Why couldn't have Biden done that? We have a sealed border. A lot of things. Why couldn't Biden put America first for a trade policy? Um, in the Ukraine war, the never-ending war, the military-industrial complex. I remember President Dwight Eisenhower warned that the military-industrial complex. But that's what it is. Send more weapons over there, so the companies here, the companies that make these weapons can make more money. Which in turn means the politicians get campaign contributions to their campaigns, or they get money under the table. Who knows what goes on? But the military industrial complex. I said that about the prison industrial complex, the judicial industrial complex. In other words, look, we need prisons. There's people in this country, they should never be let out. And I'm all in favor of the death penalty. By the way, I'm pro-life too. And I don't understand these people out there that are against the penalty, but they're pro-abortion. I never understand that. But I'm strongly pro-life. Anybody that knows me, and I'm pro-death penalty too. And what I say is, when they say about crimes and stuff like that, too many white collar people are in jail that shouldn't be. You could get more time in this country for a white collar crime than doing a violent crime. Listen, I've heard of some people out there for white collar crime getting 20 years. Who was the one? Bernie Ebbers, the one that was CEO of WorldCom who died. He got 25 years in jail. Yet there's people that commit murder, maybe manslaughter, say, they're out in 3, 4, 5 years, maybe even less, 2 years. You kill someone, DWI. Somebody committed murder, they're out in 20 years. Rape, they're out in a few years. So it doesn't make any sense. Too many non-violent people in jail. In other words, the violent people throw the key away. Life in prison, death penalty, whatever. Those people, I don't care. But there's too many people in this country that, too many white collar people in jail. Even with drugs too, you get a 30-year sentence with drugs, but yet somebody that committed murder could get half of that, maybe less than half of that. Manslaughter could be 4 or 5 years, less than that. So there's no consistency with our legal system. And I've always said the prison industrial complex. In a way, I am in favor of private prisons because I think they're better run than prisons run by government. But that being said, I say take the white collar people out of jail. Let the white collar people, if you committed a crime, you have to do community service. You have to pay back the money. You committed your crime in Connecticut, we're going to send you out to California. The money you make, you're going to pay back your victims. You own a house or something, you got to pay back your victims. Things of that sort. But these violent criminals, throw the key away. Give them the beer, lock them up 24 hours. Those people I have no sympathy for. Use the death penalty, things of that sort. But, and I believe there's certain people in this country, they don't want to lower the crime rate. I mean, our crime rate, thankfully, isn't what it was in the 70s. Thanks to what Rudy did cleaning up New York City. But I believe there's certain people who want X amount of crime because it's the prison industrial complex. Everybody makes money. Like the war on drugs, everybody makes money on that. Anywhere from judges, lawyers, police officers, court officers, correctional officers, everybody has their hand in it. It's a case of keep the ball rolling, drug rehab program, you name it. But again, not to repeat myself, nonviolent people, crimes, white collar crimes, make them pay back the money. Martha Stewart got screwed over big time, and she did more time than people that did a violent crime. She got screwed over. I felt bad for her. But white collar can pay back the money. Violent criminals, throw the key away, death penalty, whatever. But John Gotti, like I was saying, he got screwed over, and you know, he had a particular person, Sam the Bull, who a lot of what he says lie. I believe he committed more than 19 murders. Then he goes out to Arizona. What kind of person he is? He puts his family into the drug business, and then what a dirtbag. He put his wife ends up going getting in trouble for drugs. His daughter, his son went to jail. What kind of person is he? You didn't see John Gotti do that to any of his family. So big difference there. But you know, moving on to something else. Oh, one thing I want to say too about here in Connecticut, and now wrap it up. You know, there's this thing going around in Connecticut, like water a hospital, Prospect Holdings brought Waterbury Hospital, a few other hospitals, Rockville hospitals, and they're saying that that these hospitals, oh, they're run by for-profit companies. That's why they were poorly run. No, for-profit hospitals are better run than nonprofit hospitals, and you get also where you have even private, not private nonprofit hospitals are better run than state-run hospitals. Look at New York City. You got the Hospital Association there. What is it called? The Hospital Corporation. That should be dissolved. Those hospitals should be sold over to private companies. Listen, private sector does better things at a lower cost. Privatized hospitals, the ones that are government run, privately run at a better cost. Yes, you're going to have some hospitals that fail and things like that. But a Waterbury Hospital, to me, should have been, they should have let Yale buy it. Part of the problem is the unions there. You know, they control a lot of things. Their own unions, they own the Democrat Party lock, stock, and barrel, especially the union bosses. Maybe not so much the union member, but the union bosses. But part of the problem is union there. But they should have allowed Yale, New Haven to take over Waterbury Hospital, all these other hospitals, even get a company out of state. I remember Bill Fresky owned Hospital Corp, privately run, best hospitals in the country. Listen, private for-profit hospitals are better run than government-run hospitals. Even private nonprofit hospitals are better run than government-run hospitals. Like Yale New Haven, one of the best hospitals in the country, and they've brought a lot of hospitals. They've in Connecticut, and they've been successful in all the hospitals they've run. So keep hospitals private. Look over in New York City. Hospitals owned by the New York City Hospital Corporation, and they're a mess. The private hospitals, be it for profit or nonprofit, are better run than hospitals owned by New York City or the state of New York. So you need to, what I say New York City should do, sell off these hospitals. We better run. And it's not like the old days before you had Medicare, Medicaid. People, you needed these hospitals around, but now you have Medicare, Medicaid, these government programs too. People could go to any hospital with those insurances, with Medicare, Medicaid for the poor, the elderly, things like that. So you don't need the government to own these hospitals. They should get out of the business. They're poorly run. You should sell them off to a private investor, private company, and it'll be much better off. I've been saying that with the MTA in New York. Here's how you fix the MTA. The subways before 1940, when the subways opened in 1904, subway lines were owned by private companies. And nickel could ride the subways, all the subways in New York. These companies want to increase the price to 10 cents. They didn't want to do that. New York City knows that you can't increase it from a nickel to a dime. Can't do that. They bankrupt these subways. So you know what happened? New York City took them over. Guess what? They raised it to a dime, and the service was terrible. The service was poorly run compared to when it was run by private companies. Subways were clean, well run, on time, and everything. New York City took it over. Higher costs, poorly run, union dominated, things of that sort. The subways were dirty, didn't run as time, a lot of repairs. I mean, the subways, you have equipment there that's 100 years out of date. What I say is you privatize the MTA, not only subways, the buses, whatever, and let a private company take them over, sell off the lines of private companies, and they'll be better run at a lower cost. Same thing with these bus lines. Sell them off a private company, better run at low cost. And the subways and the buses, they have to compete with taxis. They have to compete with Uber, Lyft. Thank God we have those companies. Brought down taxi fares a lot. But they'll have to compete with above ground drivers, and which makes sense. They have to compete with, like I said, Uber, Lyft, taxi companies, things of that sort. So they will have competition. And the subways will be better run at a lower cost. They'll be a lot cleaner, better service, friendlier people. That's the way it should. The subways have to be privatized in New York. That's the only privatize the MTA, sell off the uh, private, if you want to say developers or private holding companies, sell it off to Donald Trump, sell it off to any of these other people that owned. I'm trying to think that own transportation companies. Sell it off to a big time trucking company, a big time transportation company, Walmart, whomever. They'll be better run at a lower cost. That's how you fix that problem. And I said with the bridges, sell them off, and they'll be better run at a lower cost in New York. I've also said that too. But get back to the subways, back to it was 100 years ago, run by private companies. All right, time to wrap it up. Thank you for watching. Make sure you tune in to the Angel Gotti show tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's Wednesday, May 14th, 9 o'clock. Angel Gotti, Angel Amara. Thank you. Have a nice day. Go President Trump.